Well, training camp is about to begin as the rookies report to Jets training camp in Florham Park this Saturday. But before we get into that, major Jets news coming out this week that's making, well, most Jets fans very happy. So we will talk about that very exciting news. Not only that, we're going to get into the 10 Jets who I believe are most under the microscope in this training camp, as well as going into the 2025 season. Guys, you know what's up. It's Wednesday night. It's 6 p.m., and we are live. And well, welcome everybody back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I am your party host, Wa2K99, here for our weekly Wednesday Night Live extravaganza. Want to thank you very much for joining me tonight. So we got it really feels like now that we're in mid-July, you're really looking forward to the start of the football season. You're just looking for news, just something new, something exciting to happen, something that lets you know that fall is on the horizon and that the days of 100-degree temperatures are soon going to drop down to 70, then 40, then below zero, and then we'll be missing the days of 100 degrees all over again. That's just kind of how the weather cycle works. So we're going to get into that, but before we do that, let's talk about what's on my mind in a little segment that we like to call 3 and Out. So the NHL schedule was released today for all 32 teams. The first night of the hockey season is October 7th, a Tuesday night. Triple header, Blackhawks against the Panthers, Penguins at the Rangers, and the Avalanche at the Kings. Two things I found interesting looking at the Rangers schedule. There are 3 Rangers versus Devil games all year, which is an absolute joke. It's ridiculous that, if you're an Eastern Conference fan, you got to see them play the Western Conference teams twice a year, but then some of your division opponents, you only see them 3 times a year, 4 at the most. It's absolutely ridiculous. The NHL does not know what it's doing in terms of rivalries. On one hand, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. On one hand, they say Gary Bettman. Yes, you have to do a little head shake if you want to be Gary Bettman. Yes, we like the idea of division rivalries, and we feel like our playoff format, in partnership with our players and our owners, helps to develop those rivalries. But then on the other hand, you only see these teams 3 or 4 times a year, whereas you used to see them 6 times, even 8 times. You got to see them 6. I'm sorry. I can live with only seeing the Seattle Kraken play the Rangers 1 time a year or the Utah Mammoth 1 time a year. I can live with that. All right. 16 games against the teams in the other conference is fine. And that still gives you now 68 games against your own conference, which is fantastic. Next year we're going 82 games to 84, and at least those 2 extra games will go towards division games, which it should absolutely do. But NHL, make up your mind. Either focus on the division rivalries or abandon them. And what the hell? Just have one league of 32 teams for all we care. It's just ridiculous. And then the Rangers also have 12 back-to-back games, but a lot of teams are dealing with that because the NHL is taking a break in February for about 3 weeks to go to the Olympics. So that the result of that is you see a whole lot more back-to-backs. And then we go on to that just wonderful All-Star game. Oh, did anybody actually get upset about the quote-unquote swing-off to decide the winner where there was absolutely nothing at stake? I would like to point out, I did not watch a second of this game. I had no interest. The idea of a home run derby to end it is fine, especially when absolutely nothing is on the line. Let's be honest. There's no home field advantage in the World Series, and teams switch, leagues, they switch teams, players switch teams, I should say, every year, every other year. Because back in the day, 80s, 90s, when free agency wasn't as big of a deal, it existed, but American League versus National League kind of meant something. It meant a little bit more growing up. But, the way the players change teams now, it just doesn't feel that way, to me anyway. I feel they may as well do like USA versus the world or North America versus the world, because American versus National League, what difference does it make? at this point. So, and hopefully, by the way, hopefully Rob Manfred doesn't get any crazy ideas that this home run derby is a good way to end a game if it goes into extra innings. It's fine for an exhibition game. That's it. Okay. I could get on the Kyle Schwarber winning the MVP for it because he did well in the home run derby because he finished off the swing off, quote unquote. But I mean, at the end of the day, who really cares about it? It's not about how you do in the game. It's just a matter of getting to the game, about getting the recognition. That's all it's really about. Because when you're breaking down great players, one thing to look at is all-star game appearances. And guys like Juan Soto, who basically weren't selected when they absolutely should have been, that's where it hurts when you're trying to build up a Hall of Fame resume or something like that. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. The other thing I did want to mention as well for number 3 is David Wright, who will be getting his jersey retired this weekend when the Mets host Cincinnati. Pardon me. And I got to be honest with you. I think I'm probably in the minority on this, but I feel like he was one of those guys who, as good as he was, it's hard for me to say that he is deserving of a jersey retirement. And again, I got nothing but respect for him as a player and as a person. I'm glad he was a Met. But to me, like, retiring a jersey should be for the highest of the high. That's just me. Mets Hall of Famer, absolutely, no question. He put up very good numbers, got to 1 World Series, and his numbers would have been a lot better had he not gotten hurt. But then you have the fastball to the head from Matt Cain of the Giants, then the back injuries, which still give him issues to this day. He represented the franchise very, very well. Again, great guy, very good ball player, somebody that you're proud to call your player. But do I put him on the level of a Tom Seaver, even a Mike Piazza, like a true franchise icon? I don't know if I'm quite there. But again, happy for him. And I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic weekend in Queens. Hey, let's say hello to the great Scott Foster. How you doing, my friend? There you go. Yeah, just going with the water tonight. I did buy a nice 8-pack of Surfside cans, which I'll be consuming over the upcoming weeks. Getting away from the beer a little bit during the summertime. I don't like how heavy beer makes me feel during the summer, especially now that I'm training for a running program. I don't want to have a heavy feeling in my stomach. So going with, the spiked iced tea, the spiked lemonade, and sticking with that a little bit more. And seems to be working. And, usually I go with the Sun Quencher, but I decided to try some Surfside, and we'll see how that goes. National League rules. Yeah, hey, they won. And that and a nickel will get you 5 cents. And, let's get back to real baseball. I'm pretty much ready. So the league resumes on Friday night. So yeah, this is one of the slower sports weeks. At least we thought it was, until the New York Jets made a little bit of news and did what they did, making some major signings. So I think on that note, man, oh man, StreamYard has changed everything. They have changed the layout. I mean, they have done everything. Let's switch the background. Let's go from Queens to Florham Park. There we go. It's looking good. Everybody, I want to hear you say it. I want to hear you say it proud. Say it loud. Let them hear you. There we go. Jets, Jets. It is funny how the best weeks to be a Jets fan usually wind up in April or July in this case. That's pretty much the way that it goes. But remember, July 19th, rookies report to training camp. And then on the 22nd, the veterans report. And then on the 25th is the first public day of training camp. So those are the major dates to keep in mind. Let's get into the news of the week with the New York Jets, and then we'll get into our main topic tonight. First of all, hello to everybody else in the chat. Feel free to leave a comment if you are comfortable. If not, feel free to hang back and do whatever it is that you're doing. I'm fine being background noise for you. It's all good. That shit is full of sugar. Adam. 2 grams of sugar per can. I checked the label. 2 grams of sugar. That's it. So it's not loaded with sugar. It's not like buying, say, like a Pure Leaf iced tea or something like that, or the bottled ones that are loaded. I check the labels on it. So yeah, Surfside doesn't have that. 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar per can. So that's a little more manageable, but I appreciate you looking out for me. All right. So let's, first of all, let's say happy birthday to our fearless leader, Aaron Glenn. That's right. Aaron Glenn turns 53 years old today, a very young, vibrant, energetic, and ready to go 53. Happy birthday to our head coach. And I was reading Rich Cimini's one of Rich Cimini's most recent articles, taking some of it with a grain of salt, taking some of it seriously. But one thing that I like that Cimini does that I don't see a lot of other beat reporters doing, he goes to other players, other coaches, other scouts. Of course, he won't name names. I don't expect him to do that. But we are able to get sort of an outside perspective on the New York Jets that from Cimini that we don't really get from the other beat writers that I've noticed so much. And there was an opposing player who played against the Jets last year. We don't know the player. We don't know the team. And this is what he said about the Jets. And there's a reason I'm mentioning this quote now, as we mentioned Aaron Glenn. This was the quote: "Good roster. They're just not playing together and for each other," end quote. So I don't know. I feel like every show I do, somewhere I say the line, it goes back to coaching and preparation. Robert Saleh could not unify this team. He could not get them to pull in one direction. He could not get them to play together. And as big a defender of Joe Douglas as I am, I think his biggest mistake was not trading John Franklin Myers, not making the Son Reddick trade. He hired the wrong head coach. I can't even kill him for Zach Wilson because I can't see what the better alternative at quarterback was. Yes, they could have drafted Justin Fields, but with the Jets coaching and everything that they had over there, what confidence can we have that the Jets would have developed Justin Fields into a quality NFL quarterback? Not a very big one. So this is why I'm glad that they hired Glenn. Somebody who can bring players together, will have them pulling together. I got a good feeling that Aaron Glenn might just be what the Jets need. And that's not necessarily going to be an instant result. It's not going to be a playoff berth. I'm not saying 10 wins or anything like that, but I'm looking for good fundamentals, a team that doesn't beat itself and is basically in just about every single game that they play. If we see that, you know what? Wins take care of themselves, because how you play oftentimes results in whether you win or lose the game. But just to back up what that opposing player said, that the Jets were not playing together and for each other. In one possession games, the Jets were outscored 26-10 in the final 2 minutes of regulation and overtime. Lack of situational awareness, the inability to come through in the big spot. And to me, again, it goes back to the coaching. The Jets' talent is up there with a lot of teams in the NFL. I believe that. I still believe that. But if you ain't playing together, if you don't have the right mindset, then you're going to wind up with the kind of season that the Jets had, where your record is actually worse than your talent. And when that's the case, it goes back to coaching. So just want to say that. Happy birthday to our fearless leader. Let's say a couple of other hellos. Yeah, we stuck with them too. Yeah, stuck with Saleh too long. And I don't kill them for giving him one season with Rodgers, just to be fair. But yeah, even during that 1 year where Rodgers got hurt, I really started to get the feeling Saleh's just not going to be the guy here. You could, and some people might have felt it sooner. Hell, I felt it with Todd Bowles year one. When they lost that game to Buffalo, right there, I was pretty much done with Todd Bowles after year one. And you could say Todd Bowles is now a very competent head coach. That's great. You know what? Look at the division. He coaches in the easiest division in the NFL. And he's got a great GM who gives him amazing talent. Todd Bowles, in my mind, is the beneficiary of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front office. My opinion. The great Harlan Abraham, Father Abraham and his many sons of Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Hope you're having a happy hump day and a fine week, Harlan. There we go. There's the toast. There you go. All right. Okay, so let's get into the big news. I did a quick short video on Garrett Wilson that he and the Jets had agreed to terms on a 4-year, $130 million contract. Includes $90 million guaranteed. So the $32.5 million, that is the fifth highest among wide receivers in the NFL. $90 million is the fourth largest guarantee for any wide receiver. He gets a $13.75 million signing bonus with a $20 million option bonus in year 2 and a $10 million option bonus in year 3. Now, 32.5. I was thinking upper 20s, maybe 30. At 30 million, he's making as much as Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill. I felt that would have been a very reasonable number. But we remember the salary cap keeps going up year by year by year in the NFL. And as greedy as we could say the NFL is, how they will get every last dollar that they can with all the international games, with them having games on 9 different streaming services and 8 different TV networks, all of that annoys us. But if that's what helps to create a higher cap so that players can, that teams can play their own players more money and keep them together, then you know what? It's just what you accept. You have to accept that. And keeping Garrett Wilson is the player that you want to keep. He's 3 years into his career. He's already 13th in Jets history in receiving yards and 15th in receptions. That's nuts. Absolutely nuts. And he will be playing out the remainder of his rookie deal before the extension kicks in. So what that means is, starting now through 2030, he's got 6 years left and $150.3 million. So basically, if you look at it that way, he's making $25 million a year on average. So the only 4 receivers making more than him are Jamar Chase at $40 million, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf. He's ahead of the Browns, A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, making more than any of those guys. And there are a couple of wide receivers who are up to get paid next year, Puka Nacua chief among them. Count on him eclipsing Garrett Wilson. And we look at the numbers and what Garrett Wilson has done. He has really made the best out of a crappy situation. 3 years, he's caught 1,000 yards or more in all 3 years. He's played all 51 games. And I think that's something that is easy to overlook while a player is healthy, because I think we tend to consider durability more when a player gets injured. Look at Elijah Vera Tucker as a prime example of that. Breece Hall, same thing. But Garrett Wilson, we have been able to count on number 17/number 5 suiting up for every single game that he has played in the NFL. And he's done it with 7 different quarterbacks. I thought about leaving this for a trivia question, but I'm just going to give this to you. Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, Chris Streveler. One of these things is not like the others. Right? Aaron Rodgers, it's like Aaron Rodgers is up here, and then you go like all the way down to Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike freaking White, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, Chris. My God. It is just crazy. And he caught 14 touchdowns for his career, half of them last season. And yet there were still times I felt Aaron Rodgers was not really looking Garrett Wilson's way. Garrett has been getting open a lot, whether it's Zach as quarterback or Rodgers at quarterback. And they either don't look at him, they don't see him. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe Wilson just needs to play with lifts in his shoes and get another 2 inches or something like that. I don't know what it is, but there are a lot of times where he's got a couple of steps on the receiver and the ball just doesn't go his way. Last year, those footballs were going to Devontae Adams in the second half of the season. Well, Devontae Adams isn't here anymore. Aaron Rodgers is not here anymore. And another thing with Justin Fields, he typically finds one wide receiver and focuses on him. So count on Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson becoming a very, very common theme as the year goes on. And last year, he became the 5th player in NFL history to surpass 1,000 receiving yards and 80 receptions in each of his first 3 years. Who are the other 4? Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas, and Odell Beckham Jr. And now he's getting paid like one of them as well. So congratulations to G-Dub. Thank you, Joe Douglas, for drafting him. And thank you to Darren Muji and the rest of the Jets front office for taking what could have been a major distraction off the table. No more do we have to see the tweets and Facebook posts from fans of other teams. Maybe we could trade the Jets a 5th round pick and we'll get Garrett Wilson back. They'll be desperate to trade him because they don't want to lose him for nothing. No more of that shit. No more. No more. Scott Foster says, I can't count on Justin Fields. I'm not counting on him to be Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes. But I am asking him to use his escapability to create some first downs. I am asking him to improve an accuracy rate, which has been improving, and basically to not lose the game for you. Because I believe the Jets' running game can take them a pretty long way on offense, but there will certainly be times when Justin Fields has to take his team down the field for a field goal, sometimes for a touchdown, because I think the Jets are going to be playing some close games this year. And you know what? Fields has something to prove, but I still believe we have not seen the best of Justin Fields yet. No, not at 25 years old. No. Justin Fields, how he plays in the first week or two is not necessarily how he's going to play his entire 2 years with the Jets. He has every opportunity to win this job and keep it for the long haul. So while I'm not counting on him, I'm excited at the level that he could potentially grow to. And then we move on. So once the Wilson extension happened, I was thinking to myself, you know what? Sauce is probably going to get done by the end of the week. And the way that it went, 2:30, I get called into a team meeting at work. I come back 35, 40 minutes later, and basically my phone is blown up with tweets, with Facebook posts, a couple of text messages as well, that Sauce Gardner has signed his contract extension as well. And the Jets get two of their absolute core players, two of their elite players, the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year from 2022. They get them inked through the year 2030. So Sauce signs a 4-year deal worth $120.4 million. That actually surprised me. I was really thinking after Derek Stingley got $30 million a year, and he passed, I think, the next cornerback. I think it was J.C. Horn by $5 million a year. I thought Sauce was going to get the same contract as Garrett. I was thinking 32, 33, right in that range. I'm like, maybe they'll give Garrett's contract to Sauce and put them basically on the same plane. And it didn't work out that way. 4 years, $120.4 million. So barely more than Stingley, but more nonetheless. So I've seen different guarantees, whether it's $85 million a year. $85 million in total guarantees. I've seen $60 million in total guarantees. But here's the thing with Sauce, and this one has been more controversial than Garrett. Signing Garrett Wilson, 99.999% of the Jets fan base was for it. The Sauce contract, not so much. All right. Now, to me, Sauce Gardner is a top 3 cornerback. Patrick Surtain of Denver, to me, is the best. After that, what are we talking about? Derek Stingley, Trent McDuffie, is Christian Gonzalez there? You know, you can pretty much toss all of them up and go whichever way you want. And I get the criticism to an extent. Okay, the tackling has not been great. You know what? Neither was Deion Sanders. Sauce does not get interceptions, and when he does, there's often a phantom penalty or referee call to take it away. I could give you examples. The game in Green Bay, when he had a pick 6 in the first 2-3 minutes of the game and they took it back, they ruled it an incomplete pass. There was a big interception against Patrick Mahomes in that night game against Kansas City. That was taken away. All right. So Sauce has made some plays, and a number of them have been reversed by the NFL. I'm just saying. And then I go on, I see tweets like the pass interference machine, things like that. I think what the issue is that Sauce is more outspoken on social media. You know, he loves to play golf and he's open about it. And there is a portion of the fan base that doesn't like that. They don't want to deal with that. You know, he's got a girlfriend who's in the limelight. You know, she's got one name, I think, that's basically impossible to pronounce, at least where I'm from. But they don't like that. You know, Garrett tends to be a little bit more quiet. He's a little bit more reserved, and I think that's why he gets more appeal. And then Sauce, he did take a little bit of a drop last year, and they're worried that Sauce is just going to fall off. Here's the point, though. When it comes to coverage, he's still elite. He has allowed fewer yards than the average cornerback in 39 of his 48 career games since he's come into the league 3 years ago. 43 forced incompletions, number one. He has a 50.9% completion rate allowed, number one. And in a league that's all about putting points on the board, when it's never, ever been harder to play cornerback, that matters, okay? You can make a fair argument that Gardner's job is harder than Revis's job was 15 years ago. And if you were to let Sauce go, you tell me how to replace him. Pray that A.Z. Thomas suddenly turns into what Sauce is when it comes to coverage. Hope that Brandon Stevens somehow learns how to play on the ball. Is that what we got? That Quantez Stiggers figures it out all of a sudden in year 2? Is that what we're talking about? Sauce Gardner is a foundational piece for a football team. Cornerback is a premium position. Quarterback, left tackle, wide receiver, edge rusher, cornerback. To me, those are your 5 premium positions. and Sauce is as good as any of them. He wanted to stay with the Jets. He made it clear. And now with Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks in the building, I don't see any reason why he can't make that leap back up to All-Pro where he was the first 2 years. The entire defense took a step back last year, except for Jamien Sherwood. Other than Jamien Sherwood, name one defensive player the Jets had who overperformed, who exceeded expectations in 2024. Sherwood's the only one I could think of. Maybe Will McDonald. Well, yeah, as a pass rusher, did well. Against the run, still a complete liability. So I'm not putting this on Sauce necessarily or any of the players. Again, back to the coaching. A couple quick hellos. We got Pa2K99 in New Brunswick, New Jersey. How are you doing? And the great JETS Mess, the OG channel member. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Yep, McDonald. Yep, exactly. I made sure to mention him. And but again, still, in my mind, Will is still a one-trick pony. Now, he's added some weight on during this offseason. So that's encouraging, as long as it doesn't rob him of any speed. Do we remember the Michael Clemens situation? Had a good rookie year, started putting weight on, and he's never been the same since. Because the coaching staff couldn't figure out where to put him. Defensive end, defensive tackle, 6 feet under, nobody really knew. So to me, yes, Will is very good at getting sacks. But he could still get better in his game overall. He still has more room to grow. And if he wants to play every down, he's going to have to do that. And so then we look at the possibility for future extensions. I'm going to remove that for just 1 second. The next one for me, now I don't expect any more extensions before the season begins. But for me, the next one I would extend is Elijah Vera Tucker. And most people are going to think about Breece Hall, who's a free agent after this year. Because, again, the skill position players are going to get more attention. Jermaine Johnson, he still has 2 years left, so we don't have to worry about him right now. Plus, he still has to show that he's healthy coming back from the Achilles injury. To me, it's AVT. That's the player. Free agent after this year, we've seen guards get some new contracts worth around $20 million a year. Trey Smith of Kansas City just became the highest paid guard in the history of the NFL. And to me, AVT has elevated his game definitely into a top 10 guard. You could make an argument for higher if you wanted to. He did get, when ESPN did their top 10 interior offensive linemen, he got some votes. He didn't make the top 10, didn't even make honorable mention, but they had him in that 15 to 20 range, including guards and centers. And I think his game is just growing. As he continues to play, he's getting better and better. And again, thankfully, the Jets don't have to go to Denver this year. So that has to give us all a little bit of hope. Scott Foster, Jets as a defense need to improve their tackling. Yes. And can I say yes again? Amen. Yeah, there were too many times with the safety and the linebacker position when they blew tackles. And we'll get into some of those culprits right now, but some of those players are no longer on the team. Jordan Whitehead, we hardly knew ye. Chuck Clark, bless him, but just didn't have the speed anymore. So, and some of these defensive tackles, yeah. And again, that's another reason why I'm as happy as I am to have Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks here, because they are focusing on fundamentals, on making tackles and turning the other team over. You know what? You're not always going to be able to make the big stops. You're not always going to be able to do that, to stop first down, second down, third down, and then stop them on 4th and 1. The biggest impact you could have is making impact plays, and that means turning the other team over. Because the Jets, for years under Saleh, were subpar at it. They'd hold teams to low yardage, but they wouldn't turn them over. And when you do that, think about it. Your defense is not on the field as long. Also, you give your offense, that crappy offense that we had for the most part, a much shorter field to work with. Instead, many times the Jets got pinned deep. They'd start from their own 20, 25-yard line, and they have to go all the way down the field. It felt like almost every game the Jets were losing the field position battle. For years, this went on. For years. It felt like the other team would start at our 35 or 40, and we'd start at our own 20, 25. That matters over the course of 60 minutes. And let's acknowledge the great Jets Mess, who is gifting a sports membership, and it goes to the great Scott Foster. Mess, thank you very much for doing that. Scott, welcome aboard, and it is good to have you here. So, hey, what can I say? Any reason to do that, right? All right, so let's get into the main content of the night. We're going to get into 10 Jets. I'm not ranking these 10 through 1, but the top 10 Jets under the microscope in 2025. Yes, I put an actual microscope on the slide. And not only that, but I've even got one here in the lower left corner. That's right. We spared no expense here except for the $39 a month that StreamYard wants for me to play my videos again. Good Lord. So again, StreamYard. That's what you can do with your upsells. All right. Yes, you are a member, Scott. Acknowledged. That's right. That's right. I might even have a search site for you a little bit later on. We'll see. All right. So number 1, Justin Fields. This is no secret to anybody. Fields is on his 3rd team in 3 years. He spent the whole offseason learning a new playbook. He's learning to work with a number of new teammates, but a couple of former ones as well from college. Now, his training camp is going to be very interesting. I don't know exactly what kind of playing time he's going to get over the course of the preseason. That's going to be an interesting decision for Aaron Glenn to make. But the Jets paid him $20 million a year for 2 years, and we'll see. But again, a lot of his stats are showing encouraging signs, whether it's him taking less sacks, whether it's him turning the ball over less, all these different factors. But the bottom line remains, Pittsburgh, who I trust to develop their quarterbacks a lot more than I do the Bears or the Jets, decided to bench him when the team had a 4-2 record. And if that doesn't put a chip on Fields' shoulder, I don't know what will. So, could he be our quarterback of the future? I'd say it's possible, but I can't say I'm counting on it. But I'm going to come back and say it again. I don't think we've seen the best of Justin Fields playing quarterback in the NFL just yet. Most of these quarterback rankings that you see out there, they've got him ranked around 27, 28. You know, they got him. They don't even have him ahead of guys like Bryce Young. It is just absolutely ridiculous. They got him down there with the level of like Tyler Shaw, in New Orleans, Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, guys like that. Russell Wilson. It's pretty much a toss-up where who's going to rank 27 versus 28, Fields or Wilson. It is pretty hysterical. So I hope Fields is looking at those rankings, and I hope it is giving him the chip on his shoulder to show Pittsburgh, show Chicago, and the NFL that they gave up on him too soon. Number 2 is Breece Hall. It's his contract year. A lot of people sleeping on him that we noticed. A lot of people looking him as sort of a home run hitter. Some people want to extend him. Some people are thinking the Jets are going to be trading him at the deadline. Breece Hall, I think, is one of the most flammable Jets on this team because we really don't know what we're going to get with him. And we know if Breece doesn't perform the way that the Jets want him to, they got plenty of depth behind him. Allen, Davis, Edwards, they're all going to step in, ready to go. And again, I feel like Hall had maybe his most disappointing season last year. The drops, the fumbles, not good. Not good. And, still not a very good blocker. Let's see if he's able to engage in that a little bit more and protect the passer a bit more. So to me, Breece is very good once he gets that space, and he was not getting it last year. And I could point to a number of reasons why. Whether it was play calling, whether it was blocking, Breece was not in a position to succeed last year. And again, with his tunnel vision, with his one-track vision, you know what? He wasn't going to bounce outside. They were using him inside too much on runs. I hope they put Breece in a position to utilize his speed a lot more than Nathaniel Hackett did, than Todd Downing did. Breece has a pivotal year ahead of him. And if he's going to earn a contract extension as well, he's got to show it. It's like a clean slate. He may as well be a rookie in my mind. I'm pretty much wiping the slate clean. The good and bad of last year doesn't matter all that much because he's got to prove to Tanner Engstrand and Aaron Glenn what his role is going to be going forward. Scott Foster, Justin Fields is 2-28 when opposing teams score 20 points or more, 20 points or more. Not a promising record. Not a very promising record. Yeah, that's a pretty deep stat. And Scott has heard a prediction from a dear friend. Okay, that Davis will be the starter by the end of the season. There are certain Isaiah Davis fans out there. Isaiah Davis he's got like a whole cult going on. You know, for a couple of games in garbage time, Isaiah Davis is one popular. We're probably going to see Davis 32 jerseys popping up at MetLife Stadium at some point. I don't know. It's easy to perform when you're facing like the second team defense. That's all I'm saying. But hey, you know what? One of them emerges. I think we'll be happy, and I do have a good amount of confidence in these three running backs. Would I trade Breece by the trade deadline if the Jets are having a bad year? Well, what can you get for him? You know, it's a second-round running back, okay, in his last year. You get him for half the season. What are we getting? Now, if we're pulling off the old late-round exchange, like if we're getting a sixth-round pick for Breece Hall and a seventh, I'm really not interested in that. I need a mid-round pick. I would want like a fourth-round pick. Like, if we were to get a fourth-round pick and have to give up a sixth or a seventh for Breece, okay, I could deal with that. I would love a third, but I think for a running back, that's a little bit rich. So a fourth pick and maybe some kind of exchange, that's what I could see happening. But yes, I would be very willing to trade Breece Hall. I think he might be the most valuable asset that they have. Him and Quincy Williams. And we'll get to Quincy in a little bit because Quincy's in a contract year as well. So I would keep that in mind. Number 3 for me is going to be Arian Smith. And I really hesitated to include a rookie in here, but the Jets wide receiver room is crying out for somebody else to make a difference alongside Garrett Wilson. And the fact that the Jets drafted him a lot higher than a lot of teams had him ranked. A lot of teams had Arian as a 6th round at best, maybe 7th, and the Jets took him in the 4th round. You know what? He's going to have a very, very clear bullseye on his chest. We know he's got the speed, but there's a couple of big questions. Can he hold on to the ball? We know he's had drop issues. Can he run a pass pattern right? There have been some encouraging signs during rookie camp that he is able to do more than just go long. You know, the NFL is filled with wide receivers over the years who could go long, but ultimately were not very productive football players. Either they couldn't get separation or they couldn't catch the ball. We could run down a litany of names like that. Is Arian Smith more than that? My hope is by the end of the year, Arian Smith is more than just a gadget player. Somebody who, you know, you're throwing a Hail Mary to, somebody who's more than just running a reverse play. I'm hoping he can become a little bit more than that. Like our number 3 inside receiver. If he can become that, we'll be happy. Can he be, here's the comparison. Can he turn into Santana Moss? Now, I think a lot of Jet fans really like Santana Moss, but I think it's very easy to forget. Santana Moss, it really took him 2 years to become a legitimate NFL wide receiver. He was injured a lot his first year, and you know, he did drop the ball quite a bit, and he did have to learn to run a pass pattern right. Even though he played at Miami, major school, Arian Smith played at Georgia, another major school. It took Moss 2 full years before he really became a credible wide receiver, along with Wayne Corbett, you know, and everybody else after Lavernius Coles left. So is Arian Smith going to need that type of a learning curve? So I need to see some good progress from August to December with this kid. What we cannot have is him plateau. We can't have that. Number 4 is going to be Malachi Corley. Now, what can we say about him that hasn't already been said? I thought last year was one of the most disappointing rookie seasons we've seen in a long time from a Jet. And a big part of that is I had very high hopes for him coming out of Western Kentucky. When it came to mid-round wide receivers, he was my number 1 target. I make no apologies about it. I don't run away from it. And he was active for only 9 games last year. He wound up with fewer receiving yards last year for the year than Isaiah Davis, Kenny Yeboah, Xavier Gibson. And it didn't get any better this offseason. He had an undisclosed injury during offseason workouts in the springtime. So when the veterans report in about a week, will he be all systems go? If he can't make an impact during training camp, I think there is a legitimate chance he's not making the 53-man roster. Now, we are seeing these workout videos he's posting online. And to me, I'll say that's a little bit encouraging. I'll tell you why. I'm not saying workouts translate to NFL production, but to me, that's a sign that he knows he underachieved last year. There have been questions, fairly or unfairly, about his work ethic, about his professionalism. So I think in this case, the fact that he's showing that he is working as hard as he is and looking very fast, looking very strong, okay, I'll take that as a little bit of positivity. But if he wants to be a successful NFL player, if he wants to make this team, he's got to take his game several levels higher than where it was last year. Because another year like that, like what we saw last year, and he's going to be gone. So Malachi, pressure's on you, my friend. Don't disappoint the believers. Number 5 to me is Jeremy Ruckert. Now, he has been with the Jets for 3 years. Now, here are his numbers over those 3 years. 52 receiving targets, 35 catches. So he's definitely caught a good portion of his targets. 264 yards. That's less than 90 a season. No touchdowns, 12 first downs, 4 drops. Not exactly numbers that are going to get you all hot and bothered. And I've raised a lot of questions about his blocking. I've said when he is an inline blocker and as an ex-tight end next to the offensive line, he is not good at it. The only time he seems to be a good blocker is when he's in the backfield and he gets a start, when he gets a running start. You know, I could see him as a special teams player being useful in that role. But right now, that's all I'm seeing. And the Jets did not draft him to just play special teams. The Jets did not draft Jeremy Ruckert with the outcome of him being Kenny Yeboah. Although, by the way, Kenny Yeboah has more receiving touchdowns in his career than Jeremy Ruckert does in his. I'm just pointing that out, okay? I'm just pointing it out. But now he is the incumbent starter with Ty Conklin gone. Mason Taylor, I know, is breathing down his neck. Well, let me know when he puts the pen to paper along with all these other second-round picks. That better be done by the weekend. That contract better be finished. And speaking of contracts, this is Jeremy Ruckert's contract season. This is go big or go home. Go back to Lindenhurst, okay? Show up, show out. Major, major steps are needed from number 89. And he's got his college quarterback with him. Had it not been for that, I would have questioned the chances of him keeping a roster spot. But he's going to get a chance. Fine. But I'll tell you what, with me, he is on thin ice. Swig of water for the working man and woman. All right, let's go to number 6. And now I'm going to flip over to the defense here. We're going to go to Leonard Taylor III, the defensive tackle. Last year, he played 14 games for the Jets, 1.5 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, 4 quarterback hits, 4 pressures, 13 solo tackles, 3 missed tackles. So for an undrafted free agent, he put up some numbers. Like, he was okay, but he was just another player is what he was. And now the Jets have, outside of him and Quinnen, the Jets have completely overhauled the defensive tackle room. Out goes Javon Kinlaw. Thank you, Jesus. Out goes Solomon Thomas. Out goes the immortal Leki Fotu, who I think just got hurt again. Sarcasm. But in comes Byron Cowart, Jay Tufele, Derek Nottie, Peyton Page, Fatura Mulba. Lot of competition at the defensive tackle position. But keep in mind, all these free agents that they brought in are on 1-year contracts. Nottie, Cowart, Tufele, 1-year deals. None of these guys are looked at as long-term solutions. None of them. And even if that one of them is really good, you know, you can't have a lot of confidence in the long-term success at the defensive tackle position, aside from Quinnen Williams. So Taylor, I really hope he gets every chance to show that he can deliver the goods. Now, he's more of a pass rusher than he is a run stopper. But I hope he gets heavy rotation in preseason, in the joint practices with the Giants. And let's see what he winds up doing. He got some opportunities last year, but I want to see Taylor take a big step forward in his game in year 2. All right, I thought about including a pass rusher. I really thought about including Michael Clemens, but I think that so many of us, our hopes are so dashed with Michael Clemens, I didn't even bother including him on this list. Instead, I'm going to go with a player that I think is going to surprise some people, but I'm going to tell you why. And I went with Quincy Williams. Now, here's why I'm doing this. First of all, number 10 on ESPN's NFL linebacker list, so he's still very well thought of. Great range. We know he's explosive, makes big plays. Over the last 2 years, he has 10 forced fumbles and actually 6 forced fumbles and 4 fumbles recovered over the last 2 years. He was an all-pro in 2023, but he does get his criticisms. There's those who believe he doesn't take the ball away. One career interception would seem to validate that. But as we said, he forced 4 fumbles last year. Okay. So it depends. To me, that's kind of a half truth, half lie in my mind. But his missed tackles have been an issue. And this goes back to one of the comments we had earlier about the Jets struggling to make that first tackle. So often it was a problem. And Quincy's missed tackle rate has risen each of the last 2 years. Last year, it was 10.8%. That's just not acceptable. It's just not. And now he's in a contract season. We look at Jamien Sherwood. The Jets just paid him 3 years, $15 million a year, $45 million total, right? So we know he's staying around for a while. Quincy is 29 years old. This may be upcoming, maybe the last big contract he ever gets. And he signed with the Jets a couple of years ago for 3 years, $18 million, $6 million, 40% of what the Jets just paid Jamien Sherwood. And so that begs the question. Not that I'm looking too far ahead into next offseason, but it will be a question. Are the Jets willing to invest heavy money in 2 linebackers? Linebacker is not the biggest position of need in the NFL. You could pay one a lot of money, but do you really want to pay 2? And so that's why if the Jets fall out of it, Quincy Williams might be a piece that some playoff contenders are looking to acquire. And after that, I know the Jets don't have a ton of linebacker. We're looking at Jamin Davis, Zaire Barnes, Francisco Mauioga, the draft pick from Miami. But if they could get, I feel like for a linebacker, you might get more back for that than you might even for Breece Hall. I think it's possible. So if you could get a day 2 pick back for Quincy Williams, then you're pretty much out of it by the trade deadline. You know what? I got to think about doing that. I don't want to lose Quincy for nothing. So it really is something to think about. And if we think about the comp pick formula, remember, the more money you get paid, the better draft pick the other team gets if you don't sign a free agent that cancels it out. Linebackers are not going to get paid as much as quarterbacks, cornerbacks, wide receivers, offensive tackles, edge rushers. Linebackers are one of the lower paid positions in the NFL. So, translation, if the Jets lose Quincy in free agency next off season, don't count on them getting a 4th round pick, which is the highest you can, a 4th round pick. If anything, maybe a 6th round pick is what they would get. So to me, if the Jets are out of it and I got a team calling me offering a 3rd round pick for Quincy, I got to think about it. I've got to think about it. Let's go to number 8, Brandon Stephens. It really scares me when the Baltimore Ravens fans are rejoicing over a player leaving. Not to mention it bothers me when that front office lets a player go in free agency because that's a franchise that knows what it's doing. Now, there's no denying Stephens is tight in coverage. 17 starts for the Ravens in 2024, 70 tackles, 10 passes defensed, 1.5 sacks, 2023, 2 interceptions, 11 pass defenses, and that was on a unit that led the NFL in scoring, sacks, and takeaways. And then if you want to get into the real semantics of it, he had a tight window target rate that was 5th among cornerbacks, basically right behind Sauce Gardner. He was 5th, Sauce was 4th. Don't even ask me to give you the breakdown of that. But the problem is Stephens loses when the ball arrives. So there's a stat called ball hawk rate, basically coverage. He's 58th out of 83 cornerbacks there. And here's the one that'll scare me. 6 defensive pass interference penalties last year, 4th most in the NFL. He fit right in with the Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich defense, wouldn't he? So that needs to be cleaned up in the worst way. Aaron Glenn and the cornerback coach, all these guys, Steve Wilks, they have to work with Brandon Stephens on his technique when the ball arrives because it's bad right now. He's a very good athlete, but maybe it's something in his head where he just gets inside his own mind and just does things he shouldn't be doing, or he doesn't do the things he should be doing. So that's Brandon Stevens for you. Okay. Now, with this contract, 3 years, $36 million, he is very likely here for the next 2 seasons based off the structure of it. The Jets can get out of it after 2 years if they need to. But then the Jets drafted A.Z. Thomas in the 3rd round. So he's right there. He'll be breathing down Brandon Stevens' neck if Stevens struggles. Maybe they move Stevens over to safety. Who knows what they'll do? And because of A.Z. Thomas, Brandon Stevens, he's under the microscope, as is our next player. I'm putting 2 cornerbacks on this list. And the next one is my man, Quantez Stiggers. You know, he never really got much of a chance last year. 14 games, had 8 tackles, allowed 4 catches on 5 targets, average of 6 yards a catch. You know, fine. But then you look at some of these other cornerbacks. Jarek Bernard-Converse, he's still there. Isaiah Oliver is expected to be used in a cornerback spot as opposed to a safety spot. So Stiggers, who was a late-round pick in 2024, again, this front office and coaching staff, they have no loyalty to him. Obviously, they don't have it to JBC either. But Stiggers being a more recent draft pick, I think this is a year for him to get some playing time as well. And if Stevens struggles, if Thomas needs some time to adjust, I would like to see Stiggers get some opportunities at the outside cornerback spot. Let's see what he does. There are several positions that are just fascinating to see who's going to get the number 2 spot. Wide receiver, defensive tackle, cornerback. Those 3. Jets have an excellent starter at each one of those positions. Who's going to be the next man up? Who's going to claim that opportunity? And if we could get good, solid answers to at least 2 out of those 3 this year, I'll feel pretty good about that. And then finally, we go to number 10, and it's Tony Adams. That's right. I've got 3 players in the secondary. Now, Tony Adams, let's take a look at this guy, okay? 26 years old, undrafted free agent from Illinois, a school that is very well known for churning out very good safeties. And over the last 2 years, Tony Adams has started 26 games. He's racked up 166 tackles and 4 interceptions. And if you look at the different analytical sites, the different metrics, they suggest Adams is playing at a consistently solid level. He's versatile. He can contribute against the run. He can contribute in coverage. And he's right about to enter his prime. He turns 26 on, actually turns 26 next January. But he's not really at a level where he's 26 now. He turned 26 this past January, excuse me. But he is in no position to command a top salary. He's not really regressing, but he only had 1 interception in 2024. But he has been prone to missing some tackles at times. It's another one of those situations to me where he makes a very good play. He'll break up a pass, but he is prone to missing a tackle as well, and it turns into a big game. But you look at this safety, and don't forget the benching last year. He was benched in the middle of 2024. I don't know if that indicates the organization didn't want to keep him at the time, or he was less likely to return. Obviously, the front office and coaching staff are now gone. But Adams was guilty that game of missing a lot of tackles. He's missed 19 tackles in 2 years. The report suggested that Jeff Ulbrich, who was head coach at the time, he had no say in the matter, and other players on the team were pissed about it. So he's really the one incumbent safety returning, unless you want to count Jarius Monroe, who's, he'd be like about the last guy to make the team, or Jalen Simpson, who came on very, very late. Adams is the one incumbent. And now you bring in Malachi Moore from Alabama. You bring in Andre Sisco, which, I was a big proponent of signing Andre Sisco. But Cisco's only signed for 1 year. Tony Adams, he's got a 1-year contract right now, $3.263 million, and then he becomes an unrestricted free agent. What I see from Tony Adams right now is sort of what Quincy Williams was. He'll make good plays, then he'll blow a play, but not necessarily a difference maker for you. Not necessarily. So, what does he do this season? Does he convince this coaching staff and this front office that he is worth keeping as a starter? And do they see enough in him where he is worthy of a multi-year contract? If they don't, hey, somebody's going to sign him, And then, well, if that happens, you better hope Andre Cisco stays. You better hope Malachi Moore is a quick adapter to the NFL, because I'm telling you, that safety room, if Adams doesn't work out and he leaves, that safety room is looking barren. And I know safety is not the most important position in the NFL. Right? I understand that. But you got to have at least somebody that you can count on. Somebody who's in place, has good vision and things like that. And Adams can do that. But is he worthy of a multi-year contract? I really don't know if we know the answer to that just yet. Jets Mess likes Adams. Yeah, I like him, but compared to some of the other players, young players on this team, I'm certainly not ready to extend him yet. I think he's still an unproven player. We don't really know what he is. And let's see, maybe with some different coaching. Again, I keep coming back to that. Maybe with some different coaching, he does take a step up. But he's another one of those examples. When it comes to missed tackles, Tony Adams is one of the big culprits of it, as far as players who are staying around. So that's pretty much what those are my thoughts. The 10 Jets who are going to be most under the microscope in 2025. 3 days from now, the rookies report. We'll start seeing some news, and I'm going to be pretty excited to read the reports to figure out who's showing out, who's making a difference, who's been kind of invisible. Let's see what winds up happening. All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you what. It is right about that time of the week. You know what happens every single week. You've been around here a while. You know the deal. Every week, I head down into the labyrinth of Jets knowledge. I bust open the books. I dust off the Encyclopedia Britannica. I open up the websites. And I, Watch2K99, challenge you, the most loyal fans of the most loyal fan base in all of the NFL. Just how much do you know about your New York Jets? So we will be ready in one moment to play Jets trivia, but I've got to acknowledge the great Johnny Jimenez holding down the fort in the 757 in the Hampton Roads part of Virginia. What about the kicker? Johnny, we don't know who the kicker is. We don't know. And I still will make the argument. There's a good chance that the kicker for the Jets, at least by week 2, is not currently on this roster. Wouldn't surprise me. Nick Folk, still out there. But there'll be some kickers getting cut on cut day. And am I supposed to have confidence that Caden Davis, Caden Davis? I mix up it's Caden Davis or Caden Smith, but Caden Davis and Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker, do I have the confidence that they're going to be the kicker all year long for the Jets? I don't have that right now. So right now, kicker is a mystery. So is the punter. That's a mystery. So to me, not under the microscope, because we're not expecting the guys who are on the roster right now to stick around all that long. That's right. Yep, there we go. Johnny and Scotty acknowledging one another. There we go. The kicker position is something that needs to be fixed. Yeah, you know what? It probably does, but we got some youth. We got the 2 Utes, and we'll see if one of the 2 Utes emerges to become a credible kicker. You never know. A lot of the best kickers, undrafted free agents. I don't think Vinatieri was drafted. I don't think Justin Tucker was drafted, as best I remember. So you never know. It's one of those positions. It could change. It's like a relief pitcher in baseball. Day to day, you don't know what you're going to get. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and play Jets trivia. I'm going to go ahead and add this to our screen. There we go. And, guys, you know the rule. 5 minutes on the clock. I will ask the question. Pop down your answers in the chat. So I'm going to queue up the clock on my phone for 5 minutes. Jets mess with a point here that I'm not sure. So he says we need a kick returner also. Mess, I'm actually going to disagree with you. We got a kick returner, and his name is Kene Nwangwu. Had a kick return touchdown last year. I think he is going to be the kick returner. So I think he is going to be number 1. You still have Isaiah Davis, who could possibly do it. Maybe one of the undrafted free agents. But I think Kene Nwangwu is going to have every opportunity to be our kick returner. Now with both players signed, which coordinator has more pressure on them, Tanner or Wilks? Well, I don't think anybody has too much pressure in year 1, but I would say Steve Wilks because he's the veteran. Tanner Ekstrand is a first-time offensive coordinator. Steve Wilks is not. And again, when you don't have the quarterback, when you don't have a top-tier quarterback, it's easy to pass blame away from the offensive coordinator. It's when your offensive production is not leading up, when it's not fulfilling the talent of the players. When the sum is less than the parts, then it goes to the offensive coordinator. So I'd say when you have the talent you have on defense, I'd say there's more pressure on Steve Wilks. And keep in mind, Engstrand came over with Aaron Glenn. Engstrand's not going anywhere for a while. But Steve Wilks is a veteran. If this defense disappoints, I could see Wilks getting replaced after year one. Hopefully it won't come to that. But if one of the coordinators was to be under the microscope, it's Steve Wilks for sure. All right, let's get to tonight's question. So tonight's question is going to go a little something like this. It is related to Sauce Gardner, and this is going to be a jersey number trivia question. Other than Sauce Gardner, name the only Jet to wear number 1 for at least 2 seasons. So in the 65 history of the New York Jets / Titans, only one player has worn number 1 for multiple years besides Sauce. Can you name that player? Pretty crazy, right? Oh, that water tastes good. Jets mess with a quick answer. He goes with Michael Vick. Well, is it Michael Vick? Is that correct? No, it is not. Michael Vick was here only 1 season. That's right. Michael Vick was here, 13, I think, right at the end of the Rex era. Yeah, and now, of course, the head coach at Norfolk State University. So, hey, go Spartans. I hope the Spartans kick it this year. Yeah, Norfolk State's got a very good basketball program, but their football, not so good. Yeah, Vic was a Jet in 2014, had a 1-2 record in the 3 games that he started. Played 10 games total, but only started 3, went 1-2. That was it. All right, so let's see. Johnny Boy goes with Mike Nugent. How about Mike Nugent? That is exactly correct. Mike Nugent was a Jet from 2005 to 2008. That's right. Only 2 Jets have worn number 1 for multiple seasons. Mike Nugent and now Sauce Gardner. So Johnny, very well done. He gets the win for the chat. There we go. This time, we weren't waiting on on Nick or Sharon or any of the trivia experts to come in. Johnny just had it ready to go and got that thing in like 1 minute. So, well done, my man. Let's see if we got any news going on over here. Najee Harris, Chargers running back, who of course sustained an eye injury in a fireworks mishap on July 4th. Will begin training camp on the NFI list. All right, so there you go. Well, at least he didn't blow a finger off like OCU Manura did. And what do you think? Ted Nugent. There you go. Got you in a stranglehold, baby. The night I crushed your face. I gotta say, I play stranglehold every morning that I'm running, and I gotta drive to the gym. I play stranglehold. It's a great kill of about 8 minutes. First of all. And it definitely gets me going with like that slow jam and that slow rock and roll jam, the swagger in that song. Yeah, definitely playing Stranglehold. Of course, that was actually Kevin Von Erich's entrance theme back in a World Class Championship Wrestling back in the 80s. So, yeah, definitely gets you going. And most people don't know Ted Nugent was the guitarist of the band, but he wasn't the vocalist. That was Derek St. Holmes for the most part. So. Yeah, but a lot of people, cat scratch fever, cat scratch fever. We know that's right. Now he likes the wow. That's more Johnny speed. That's right. Oh my gosh. So guys, that's what's going on tonight. Yeah, if you have any thoughts, any questions here, I can hang out for a few minutes. God knows there's no baseball tonight. I have to catch up on like true crime documentaries or something. We'll see what winds up happening. But all kinds of craziness going on. Of course, I'm just 3 weeks away from heading to Green Bay. I'm pumped up. I'm so freaking pumped up. Johnny Boy asked my favorite David Wright moment. I got to be honest with you, Johnny. I was always a Jose Reyes guy. I always liked David Wright. I always respected David Wright, but Jose Reyes was my guy. I've always liked the leadoff guys, the speed guys. If I had to give you a favorite David Wright moment, I mean, I could be honest with you. When he got inducted into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame and I was there 1 row behind the dugout for it, I was actually there for that. That was really cool. But as far as being a Met goes, I'm trying to remember what I actually watched live. I feel like the easy answer even though it wasn't specifically David's moment, it would have to be being in Wrigley Field for the NLCS in 2015 Game 4 when the Mets swept the Cubs. Just feels good to say that again. When the Mets swept the Chicago Cubs and won the NL pennant, because David was on that team, of course. That was a pretty fantastic feeling. Not that David had a huge game there. I think he did. I'm pretty sure he had a RBI, scored a run in that game. But yeah, to be there in person after all the losses that I watched the Mets have in Wrigley Field over the years, to get in the building, first of all, for about $100 and watch them just beat the Cubs into submission from inning 1 on. Couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been better. That will go down as my favorite, really Met moment under the David Wright era. Yeah, I didn't see like the hit. A lot of moments I didn't see live, like the catch, the barehanded catch. I didn't see that live. The hit off Mariano to win that game in 06 against the Yankees. I didn't see that one live. So yeah, for me, yeah, I really have to say 2015 NLCS Game 4. That's where I go. Individual moment when he hit his home run in the World Series. That's it. It was good that he got that moment, coming back from the injuries that he did. What about Mike Adamle? What about Mike Adamle? I need some context on that. I know he hosted American Gladiators. I know he was one of the worst general. Mike Adamle. Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. Did he wear? Okay, I see what you're doing. Because Mike Adamle was with the Jets. Okay. First of all, I want to say Patu K99 is not a Jets fan. So if he actually if he actually is doing the research on that, that's very interesting. But Mike Adamle wore. So the thing with Mike Adamle, he wore I'd say 2 years, at least 3. Yeah, more than 2 years is what So if I said 2 years, I meant more than 2 years. Yeah. Yeah. He wore it for the Jets in 73 and 74. So more than 2 years still. Number 1. Yeah. Is there a number 2 receiver you would bring in free agency or trade? You know what? I'm not real. I think Stephon Diggs, his best days are behind him. I would bring in Keenan Allen, but it would be a 1-year incentive laden deal because let's be honest, he is prone to injuries. Tyler Boyd is okay. I don't think I would trade anything right now. I don't think the Jets are in a position to trade assets to bring in a wide receiver, to bring in anybody right now. So yeah, I would not make a trade per se, unless it was like a player for player situation. That would make a little bit more sense. But yeah, if we go to the undrafted, the still available free agents. Yeah, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. Yeah, Amari Cooper. Yeah, I think I said Stephon Diggs. I meant Amari Cooper. I'm not a Gabe Davis guy. I think he's still available. I remember Tyler Boyd. Nelson Aguilar, fine if you want to, but he's 32. I mean, come on. Yeah, Tyler Boyd, I mentioned him. Brandon Powell from Minnesota. Who? Chris Conley, he's 30, almost 33. Yeah, and Keenan Allen's 33 as well. Amari Cooper's 31. I mean, I'd bring in Allen or Cooper for a year if one of them wants to take a 1-year deal that's incentive laden. But outside of that, no. Yeah, I'm not bringing in a wide receiver unless they're going to make a difference. We have a bunch of players who are looking for opportunities. I'll let them have their opportunities unless you're bringing in a clear starter. And to me, Cooper and Allen are the only ones I see. But again, still, I'm not breaking the bank for them. All right. Let's see what else. Harlan Abraham. Red Sox are moving up. Yeah. Moving on up. Johnny, thoughts on MLB saying the Mets will have the 3rd best record in the league? Is this some sort of projection that they did? I do know. I do remember seeing that the Mets had the 12th hardest schedule left. I know that the Cubs had the easiest. It's just so annoying. So annoying. I still question if the Cubs really have the starting pitching that they're going to need past Shota Imanaga, but I don't know. I'm just not sold on that pitching staff. Have the Mets will have the 3rd best record in the league? Great. To me, there's 3 levels. You miss the playoffs, you make the wild card round, or you get a bye. If the Mets don't, here's the thing. I fully expect the Dodgers to get a bye in the first round. I think just about everybody is. Right now, the Cubs are in the driver's seat to get the number 2 seed, meaning they would get a bye as well. And then whoever wins the NL East, because those teams are all beating up on each other, would then have to play in the wild card round. Okay. And then you're playing like if the Mets make it, they're playing Philadelphia or San Diego or Milwaukee or San Francisco, a team like that. To me, there's not much of a difference between the 3 seed and the 6 seed. We've seen last year, home field, it's nice to have, but it only means so much, really. So to me, if you're not a top 2 seed, I don't care if you win the division or not. That's how I really feel. Because at the end, division, it's like winning a regular season championship in the NCAA. It's great to have it, but ultimately, what did you do in the conference tournament? What did you do in the NCAA tournament? So if they have the 3rd best record in the league, great. We're getting a bye. Yeah, that's what I really care about. So, yes, outside of that, it looks like Josh Hart of the Knicks had some surgery on his ring finger. So he'll be resuming activities in a couple of weeks. I think I saw that as well. Yeah, I think that's about all that's really going on right now. So, all right, guys, I think we're going to call it a night. So this time next week, we should have some more news. The Jets will be in camp, and we're going to start really digging in, getting to some of the topics. And, in the upcoming weeks, we'll do bowl predictions. We'll do season predictions. We'll do all kinds of things as we lead up to it. Talk about the preseason games. I plan on taking some video up in Green Bay of, I'm actually going to get to run out of the tunnel in Lambeau. Yeah, get to go out of the tunnel and go onto the field. So, maybe I'll get to throw a football around a little bit on the not yet frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I will be able to run out of the tunnel. So I am very excited about that. 3 weeks away. It's going to be freaking awesome. So everybody, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Have a great rest of your week. Be happy. Don't let the Jets mess up your mood, which they should be able to do in July anyway. So that's all I got for you tonight. And I will see you all. Please like and subscribe. Please share the channel with a friend as well. Let's keep growing this puppy together. I'll see you all right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair. Have a good night, everybody. Yes, Scott, I will do my best to steal some turf.